Welcome back to another episode of Raising the Curtain, a Bloomington Normal Theater podcast with Ashley Raylin. On today's interview, we will be meeting with John Stark. Hello, everyone. Today I have John Stark, who is the artistic director of the Illinois Shakespeare Festival. How are you, John?
I am fine, Ashley. Thanks for letting me be part of this.
Yeah, of course. I really appreciate you taking the time. We're actually in the basement of Ewing Manor, and it is gorgeous right now. I've never been down here before, so it's really cool. So yeah, I mean, we know you're with ISF, but tell me a little bit about yourself, your theater background, and how you got involved.
Oh boy, that goes way back, actually.
Right? We love that.
Well, I got involved in high school. I mostly was into athletics and some things like that when I started high school. But then a friend who had an older brother started a summer theater in my hometown of Schuyler, Nebraska. And so this was the beginning of Gemini Players in Schuyler, Nebraska.
Very cool name.
And so the Players did summer shows and a lot of Neil Simon,
of course,
Woody Allen, and things like that. And we performed in a little town of Rogers, Nebraska, a few miles from Schuyler, in my hometown there. And so that's where I got my start in high school, and then summer theater that was local. So that's how I got started in the business. And then I went to college nearby, and I majored in communication arts, actually, radio and TV. But I had a theater minor. But ended up doing more theater than I did radio and TV. But I did both in college. Then I started doing summer theater, Indiana summer theater, and then decided through that I started out as an actor, like a lot of people did in my generation, at least. A lot of people started out in acting, did a lot of acting, but I also did tech work all the time. And I decided, and I noticed that they paid a little bit more for the technical work. And so I started doing that, and I then sought out a grad school. And so I went to the University of Nebraska-Lincoln and got my MFA, scenic design. And from there, I started doing academic jobs. I actually taught at Illinois Wesleyan University for my first job way back in the 80s, 82 to 85. And then I went to Arizona State for 6 years and taught there. And that time I joined the union, the Scene Designers Union. I'm a member of the United Scenic Artists 829. But then we were looking to leave Arizona because of various reasons, family and health reasons. And we found an opening at Illinois State University. So it's curious that I started at Illinois Wesleyan and I came back to 2 miles away at Illinois State. And I was at Illinois State from 1991 till this year. I just retired last May from teaching. And that's how I got into theater. That's kind of my track of employment, if you will. Lots of summer theater in there, and lots of theater experiences within that. But I've always had the academic position, and I did then professional work alongside of that.
Sure. So how did you find your way to be the artistic director of Illinois Shakespeare Festival?
Well, I started with the Illinois Shakespeare Festival soon after I arrived here. Came in 1991, but my first summer was 1993 with the festival and the production of Pericles. That's a very memorable production that I did with Doug Finlayson, the director. And then I worked as a scene designer from 1993 until about 2005. Then I had a summer off or so. But over the years, I'm looking at doing my 24th season. Kevin Rich left the position of artistic director. He went to University of Colorado and also to Colorado Shakespeare in 2017. And Janet Wilson, then the producer and the director of the School of Theater and Dance at Illinois State, sought me out and was talking to me about who I thought would be a good candidate for artistic director. And I went away that night, thought about it, and the next day I went in and saw Janet and I said, "What about me?" It is kind of unusual in the fact that as my background is scenic design, but I am around a lot of actors. My wife is an actor. Lori Adams is the head of the acting program at Illinois State. My son is an equity actor. And so I've been around actors a
Hmm.
lot. I acted a little bit of myself long ago. And so I think that's the most surprising thing. Scene designer, artistic director, there
Hmm.
aren't too many of us around the country. I felt that I knew this company well.
Hmm.
I was very involved with the building of the new space at Ewing, the
Yeah.
new theater, and that was in 99, 2000, but there were several years of planning before that. And around 1998, I think I became an associate dean of the College of Fine Arts, and I was the liaison from the College of Fine Arts to the project, to the
Hmm.
architects, and then to the contractor on
Okay.
site. So I was on site a lot, working with the contractor. So I had an awareness of the physical part of
Right.
this operation, and I'd been around it from '93 until 2017, and so then. Eventually, I think Janet Wilson took a chance on me,
And just said, hey, let's
and
do this.
let's go. And I became the artistic director.
So, can you kind of explain a little bit about the artistic director's responsibilities and what their job is?
Right. I think it's a little different with each company.
Hmm.
And there's slight differences, I think, from what I do. But essentially what I explain is that from the edge of the stage, upstage, away from the audience, everything that's on stage and backstage is my responsibility. And so, and then everything from that edge of the stage into the auditorium is the managing director's
Hmm.
responsibility. Currently, that's Derek Munson. And so, of course, we blend over those
Sure,
lines, but
absolutely. You have to.
and we consolidate. But that's essentially what I'm responsible for: is everything the audience sees on stage in
Hmm.
terms of the production values. So, but I'm also I propose a season. That gets passed up the line. I'm not the final say
Say,
because I do have a producer and Halgo. Do have a dean of the College of Fine Arts, Gene Miller,
yes.
that are in that line. But that is, so I propose a season. I also am responsible for hiring directors, designers, and the acting company. Yeah, then I'm also, I mean, we have a production manager currently, that's Lucy Yar, and I work with, her responsibility is all the production side, but
Yes.
she and I work on that because ultimately that's my overall
Hmm.
responsibility. But there's another person because that's a monumental task of all the personnel that are involved with the company backstage.
Very cool. That's a good way to explain it,
Yeah,
everything behind it. That's a good
yeah,
way to put that.
yeah.
I know I'm not, I mean, I have worked with artistic directors, but I never fully understood what
Yeah.
their role was.
I think the thing you'll find sometimes, Ashley, is that some artistic directors are very involved with fundraising. Because we're part of Illinois State University, there's already a fundraising
Raising,
component, the foundation.
sure.
And so while I get involved with promoting the
Hmm.
company, and I think I'm involved with trying to represent Illinois Shakespeare Festival, that component isn't like squarely on my shoulders. Other more companies that are not connected to
Hmm.
university, perhaps.
Can you tell us a little bit about ISF in general? Like when was it created? How did it come to be? How did we end up at Ewing?
Well, it did start in 1978, and it's really the person that is most responsible is Kel Prittner. Kel Prittner was at that time the chair of the Department of Theater at
Okay.
Illinois State University, and he simply had been talking to people in the theater department, and they'd done, as I understand it, there'd been cultural events held at Ewing. Ewing became part of the foundation in the 1960s. I don't know the exact year. So it had not been around that long, but they started doing cultural events here. I think they had music here. I think there
Hmm.
was an arts festival at different times. There's people in the community that probably know more about that than I do, but
Fair
that's what I
enough.
understand. But at some point, Cal Prittner felt that Shakespeare Theater would be great in this
Hmm.
location, and I can see why. I mean,
Absolutely.
the manor house is a Tudor style manor house,
Yes.
and so you think you're in Europe,
Hmm.
and so you certainly can envision yourself somewhere in England, and when you come on the grounds of the courtyard and the house and so forth, and so they decided. Ewing itself has been upgraded so many times
Hmm.
since then, but they decided to build the theater here. I think there was an invitation for Illinois Wesleyan to take part, but it ended up that they declined, so it became an Illinois State University connection. The dean at the time, and I think it was Charles Boland, I believe, and Cal, Prittner, and then there were other people that got involved with it early on, and the community came around it, and they built a temporary wooden structure
Mm-hmm.
on the old tennis courts. It's in the same location where the theater was, but there's been some change in topography there. But that's where they built it. And the temporary structure lasted until 1999
Oh, well,
from
I mean,
1978. So it's gone through many changes. Early on, it was a lot of Illinois State students, augmented by some recent graduates and a few people from Chicago, and some recent grads from Chicago. So there were Tom Irwin, Terry Kinney, Gary Cole. I recently learned that Jane Lynch even was out
yeah.
here and did a part in the Midsummer Night's Dream when she was a student at Illinois State. So some of those famous actors from that time at Illinois State started here. There were directors. A lot of the directors were Illinois State faculty, but then it did progress over the years till they started doing some equity contracts, and then there were more equity contracts, and now we work under the IRTA, University Resident Theater Association equity contract, and we now are looking to hire 6 equity actors next summer, also an equity stage manager. That's part of the agreement. So we are still a mixture of equity, non-equity, and student interns. But it started out differently in the early part of the history. So we're looking at season 47, I believe. I think I got the number right.
It's amazing to me, like, so I'm from the area, right?
Yeah.
Lived here 30 years, except for my few years where I was like off to school or
Sure.
traveling and doing whatever. And I never even realized how long some of these theaters have been around.
Right.
Yeah. When I was interviewing Marcia Basolo, I had no idea that. And I remember seeing the like inaugural production of the Holiday Spectacular. And I didn't realize that it's been 24 years now.
I think that's correct. Something like that.
And it's insane to me.
Yeah. It started. They do add up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
ISF is considered professional theater. So for anyone who may not know, can you kind of explain a little bit what it means to operate under an equity contract?
Sure. Well, their equity actors that's the union that represents all live theater actors across the nation. And so under that contract, there's a certain pay rate that we must pay for those actors. So that's negotiated ahead of time. We must have one equity stage manager on staff because there's a series of rules and regulations that I think they're very, they do make theater happen. So there's, we can only rehearse so many hours a day.
Yes.
If we need extra time, then they have to be compensated for that. We need to provide housing and transportation to the work site, and those sorts of things. So all that's part of the contract. And the different contract, equity has several different types of contracts.
Yes.
The IRTA contract's just one of them. And so we work under that. It's there to protect the actors. Then our non-equity and our interns all pretty much are following the same rules for the most part.
Right.
There's a little more freedom with costume fittings with non-union and interns, but in terms of timing when they can be done. But anyway, that's some of that. I think it's. But even within that, we can rehearse 6 days a week, 8 hours a day. That's what equity allows by this contract. And so that, and then there's other things that we have to provide. And
Sure.
Of course, it became a big issue during the COVID years what we needed to provide and the safety procedures and so forth. But it's all these things are meant to protect the actors so they're not, they know up front what they're going to be provided with because they're relocating here for 11 to 12 weeks. And so they're leaving wherever their location is, New York, Florida, Texas, whatever, and coming here and have to have a life here. They have to be here the full time. They can't come and go because they're in rehearsals.
Exactly.
And then they're performing and they need to stay healthy. And we need them to, we need them to do all that. So that's the equity side of it. We also do work with union scene designers. United Scenic Artists covers costumes, lighting, and scenery and sound by another organization. But anyway, it does. All of them are USA, and we do work with them. We also work with the Society of Directors and Choreographers, SDC. We're not required to hire union directors and designers, but we work with them when we want to hire them. And so there are certain things we need to do. A lot of it has to do with pension and health, and making sure that what we're paying is at least at the rate the rate that they ask for that size of a theater. Yeah.
So you had kind of mentioned it, but how did COVID impact ISF?
Oh boy.
And even you had also mentioned that we have to provide housing for them. So with the economy and the market, how has that impacted all of this?
Well, COVID was, disruptive. One of the hardest times that we've experienced in terms of my time. There's always a challenge. Almost all of them involved money.
Of course.
But COVID was special, of course. We did lose the 2020 season. I did do a few video interviews to try to keep things going and keep some content on our website. I think they're still on our website. The interviews with different actors and the monologues that they provided us. I think I called it "Take Time to Pause." But that we
that's good.
And we did. We were pausing. And we, luckily for us, I think the main thing I can say is that ISF has survived. There were many theaters that did not. We had, going into the 2020 season, we had not signed and paid for any housing yet. It hit at a time when we were able to not sign that contract, so we didn't incur that cost from the apartment provider. It wasn't so good for them, perhaps, but it was good for us. We had not finalized all the contracts for actors and so forth, and so we just were able to leave those aside. We had directors and designers already on board, and we paid them a certain amount of what they were going to get. So we paid for roughly half, let's say. I don't know if it was a third or a half, but we paid a certain amount of the director and designer fees because the work had been done, and we were getting ready to go into, I think somewhere in April, I made the calls. Early April is when I had to make the calls and tell everybody that you thought you were cast, you're not cast anymore. And it was really some of the hardest phone calls.
Yeah.
It was very awkward because everyone thought, well, it's going to pass. It's going to pass. It's going to pass. And so we just kept trying to find ways to do it and so forth. We did find a way to perform in 2021 under a lot of stipulations. It was an interesting summer in 2021. I actually had to create a cast based on how many people could be in the dressing room safely. So I could have in the larger dressing room, we could have 6 actors in the larger dressing room to provide enough room. Usually we have about 17 in there.
Oh, so that's a big drop.
Yeah, big drop. The other dressing room usually holds about 7, and that had to be only 3. And so the company in 2021 was 9.
Wow.
And we were able to add in a few others because the restrictions in summer 2021 lessened right around the time we were opening. So we were able to add in some interns in the cast. But we did Measure for Measure with 10 actors. We did The Winter's Tale with 12 actors, which is smaller, 16 to 20 actors on stage for any show. And so we were down at 10 and 12. And then, all kinds of protocol. We in 2021, we only sat about 26% of our seating. We didn't sell the first 2 rows. We did not have to wear masks on stage. That got lifted shortly before. We thought for a while we're going to have to, which would have been really hard for us in an outdoor theater speaking Shakespeare. But that got lifted, but we still had to keep distance backstage. As soon as actors went off stage, they had to mask. Crew had to be masked backstage. We got through it. It was an amazing effort by our then production manager, Colleen Tovar, and Ann Haugo, and Derek Munson, who had just come on into the job, and he became into COVID.
Poor Derek.
Yeah. It's like, wow, here, welcome to ISF, deal with COVID.
Welcome on board. Wow.
And so we actually, we budgeted it. We got some relief funds, and that did help us a bit. And being part of the university does protect us to
Hmm.
some degree in that regard. Other theaters that didn't have that protection of a university like Illinois State,
Right.
they were, it was hard for them, really
Yeah.
hard.
So I'm curious, obviously a lot of us went that full year with not doing anything theater related. And I know when I was still at the theater that I was involved with, we noticed a incline in the amount of people coming out to auditions. When you announced that you were going to do a season in 2021, were the audition numbers higher? Were they lower? Were they the same as they'd previously been?
They've been higher.
Hmm.
Now that everybody's doing Zoom and digital auditions, our numbers have been high.
Yeah.
We're going to go back this year, at least we're proposing to go back to in-person equity auditions in Chicago, 21 and 22 and 23. All three of those years, they're all digital.
Yeah.
So I think that in 2019, I'm going to say in a round number that perhaps we had maybe 500 people audition
Okay.
in various ways, because some were live in
Hmm.
person, some were digital, and then we would go from there in terms of callbacks. In 2022, I think we had over 800 digital auditions. So our associate artistic director Robert Quinlan and I, and also some casting associates,
Hmm.
looked at every audition, which is a big task. And then so you're going from, let's say, 800 down to a company of maybe 16. I mean, Robert and I have said many times we could cast 3 companies, 4
Absolutely.
companies out of the people we have, and they'd all be good.
It's so hard to make this.
Yeah, and it's there's quality actors out there, and so I just like to have 3 more Shakespeare festivals. I don't want to run them,
Right.
but just to give people
Just to
work,
clarify.
just
Right.
to give people work. I would love to, because there's so many talented actors
Yes.
out there, and production people, designers, and so forth.
Mhm.
They just would love to, that we'd be more live theater provided, but it's a hard time coming back from COVID, and also the changing habits of the public and so forth in terms
Yeah.
of live entertainment.
Can you kind of talk a little bit about maybe like the inner workings? Like, is it ran by like a board of directors? Is it all through like or Illinois State University employees?
It is, Illinois State University. We are a part of the College of Fine Arts,
Mhm.
and Wonsuk Kim College of Fine Arts at Illinois State. We are connected. We're a program within that.
Yes.
So everything runs through Illinois State University. We do have a dedicated Shakespeare
Okay.
Society board, who are an advisory board. They perform a lot of function in terms of helping us with community connection and fundraising, and we have 2 major events every year: a golf outing and then the Bard Bash at the end of the year. But also, they've been some of our most dedicated supporters. And so, as I understand it, the board started out in the early 2000s, or maybe before that, as more of a board that had financial connection responsibility, but it changed over time to Illinois State taking on that. So that does give us the ability to use Illinois State's payroll system, HR system for hiring, and all those sorts of things.
Okay.
So a lot of that then is off of our plate. We also, Illinois State gives us rehearsal space and shop spaces and inventory, and so there's a ton of things provided by Illinois State University. So it is a program within the College of Fine Arts.
So you mentioned Bard Bash.
Yes.
Does ISF offer events just outside of those 3? I believe it's 3 shows that you do in the standard season.
The standard season is 3 shows. We also the other things. There's several things that we provide. Probably the first thing I'd mention is our TYA show. This was started by Deb Alley, I believe, officially, in terms of, I think that long ago there were puppet shows for kids.
Oh, okay.
That kind of went through different manifestations over the summers. But Deb Alley started this in her tenure as artistic director, a very dedicated, providing something for the community for free. And so what the pattern we've been doing since I've been artistic director is that we have a local playwright, Nancy Steele Brokaw, who writes a approximately 40-minute version, something connected to Shakespeare. The last couple of years, and I think it will be again this coming year, of something connected to one of the shows that we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And a shortened version using the plot, using the characters, aimed at really all ages, but of course to include kids, with some Shakespeare, using some of the lines, but then also having more contemporary language to tie the story together and tell the story. And so we provide that for free on the lawn at Ewing, but the last 2 years, we've been touring as well.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, we've been touring to some other parks, rec centers, summer camps, town of Leroy.
Yeah, I know Leroy.
Yeah, has had us there. And so we're looking to do that again.
Very cool.
It's our outreach program. So that's probably one of the main things we do. But other things that we do, the Bard Bash is a fundraiser, but it's a fun thing. It's the last night of the festival, and all the actors and the company, and then we're supported by the production staff. We present sort of a variety show based on whatever the talent that we have on stage, and have them sing, dance, tell jokes, do a skit, things of that nature. And they've been very fun over the years.
Yeah.
We have had rap songs, we've had lip syncing to Beyonce, we've had a belly dancer, we've had jugglers, we've had, a very tie it together with the season. So there's usually a dinner and then the Bard Bash. Last year we had to do it inside because of rain that night, but we like to do it at Ewing Theater. So there's the Bard Bash, there's the TYA show. The other thing that I started 2 summers ago was music in the courtyard, courtyard music series. And so we've been trying to put entertainment before the show, which is free, provided free in the courtyard, and different local musicians have been around. There's the Linden Duo, we've had the Twin City Brass Quintet, we've had different madrigal singers. And so the idea is that we have about 40 minutes of entertainment before the show in the courtyard, and people, as they get their tickets, then they have their food, they can listen to music, or they can go out onto the ground somewhere else. So there's that. What else do we provide? So the music, there's also, something we kind of started 2 years ago, but became more formalized last year, was working with Ki-Yoon Nam, our dramaturg.
Yeah.
He's provided Bard Basics, is what we've been calling it.
Yes.
And so an informative hour before you see the show that night, he talks about the show before the people see the show, so they can talk about some of the themes, some of the characters, some of the background about the play, so people can kind of get a little bit of a primer on what they're going to see that night. And he's provided that on 3 nights. And it became much popular last summer. And so that's been on 3 nights. We'll see what we're going to do this year. We haven't really fully decided about the Bard Basics. So there's that. And I guess a real fun thing I mentioned the golf outing. That's in June. The date is not on the top of my head, but it'll be on our website. Nancy Stevens heads this up. She's on our board. And it is a memorial to John Stevens, who was a dedicated board member, and he was very affectionate about the Illinois Shakespeare Festival. John passed away, and it's in his honor that this golf tournament goes on. It's at the Ironwood Golf Course. It's a fundraiser to support One Equity Act. Last year, I also started a Falstaff's Courtyard Pub. After each of our performances, we leave our courtyard open. We've made it a more festive atmosphere. We leave our concession stand open. We do have soft drinks, but we also have beer and wine, and we have some snacks. But people also can bring in their own snacks, and they can have whatever they picnicked with, they can bring out again. But we leave it open so people can linger after the show and talk, meet up with some cast members, their family, or there's just their friends if they want to, talk a little bit about the show. And I tell you, there's nothing more lovely than the courtyard of Ewing. Yes, it rains occasionally.
Well, sure.
But
weather.
But by like at 10 o'clock at night, 10:30 at night in the courtyard, Italian lights on.
Oh yeah, it's gorgeous.
And it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous being outside. It's and what it allows us to do is that patrons don't have to drive somewhere else, try to find something that's open.
Right.
Go there. They can just pause for a bit before they go on home.
Yeah.
And it was a great hit last summer. We'll have it back this summer. So that's after each show. From after the show until about 11:15, 11:30, the pub is open, and it's been fun. It's also people can buy concessions and buy
Hmm.
gear and merchandise, and so it's been good for us, and it's been enjoyable
That's
as well.
awesome. So I know you had also mentioned that you are responsible for selecting the shows and then
Mhm.
proposing them. What do you look for when selecting the shows? Because it's not all traditional Shakespeare. Like I was very impressed by the Book of Will this past season.
Yeah, I do like that's been my pattern. It's sort of one that Kevin Rich sort of did too. I like programming two Shakespeare plays and something else that is associated with
Hmm.
Shakespeare or the classics or something that is maybe on that realm a little bit more. Now that's varied with each artistic director,
Sure.
but mine has been dedicated to that. What we try to not repeat a Shakespeare play every 6 years. So,
Okay.
yeah. So first of all, I look at what's been done in the last 6 years. Now, of course, COVID made a big gap
Yeah.
there, and it was strange. We just did a two-show season in 2021
Hmm.
because of the COVID situation. But
Sure.
usually we're doing three shows, and so you look at what's been done in that time. Um, then of course I'm always have to be concerned about sales and what people are going to come to. People every summer we try to offer one comedy. This year it's going to be Twelfth Night.
Okay.
It's a very well known comedy.
Yeah. I love 12th Night.
Yeah, it's and so we offer that. Then it's after that it's like we're trying to find what else has been done, and of course there's a whole raft of plays I would love to do, but I also have to ask the question of are they going to sell? Will it be popular? And I think right now that's what we're trying to do all across the nation. And so you see a lot of theaters tending toward a little bit more popular fare, what you think might be popular, maybe not always about challenging fare.
Hmm.
Um, but so I look at that, and then I like programming one non-Shakespeare, not written by Shakespeare anyway. So Book of Will was
Yeah.
one definitely about Shakespeare.
Yeah, definitely.
In 2018, we did Shakespeare in Love, which
Yes.
was, I guess, again. And 2019, we did Pride and Prejudice, which is certainly not Shakespeare, but it's in the classic
Right.
vein,
Absolutely.
popular literature, very well known. And this year we're going to be doing Sense and Sensibility,
Oh, okay.
which is another Jane Austen
Yeah.
novel put on stage. So in 2020, the canceled season, we were going to do One Man, Two Governors, which is a hilarious comedy based on
Yeah.
oh my goodness, just went in my head. Um, Servant of Two Masters.
Oh,
So
okay.
sorry, very classical play that I just I had a little bit of a pause there. But Servant of Two Masters is based on it, but it's a modern interpretation. James Carden started it on Broadway. It's hilarious, but that got canceled. We
It's a
did complete
shame.
works of Shakespeare in 2022, and then this
Yeah.
last summer, of course, we did the Book of Will.
Mhm.
So those are some of the things we've done that have been not by Shakespeare, but
Sure.
connected to somehow in that way.
I
So
think that's great.
yeah, my thinking on it is to have allow audience to. There's still some out there. There are people that are hesitant about Shakespeare.
Yeah.
I'm not going to understand it. I'm remembering my freshman English class, and it was just painful to listen
Hmm.
to. Um, there's a little difference between freshman English class
Yes,
and professional
definitely.
actors reciting these lines. But that's why I like that. There's something that's accessible
Hmm.
that perhaps we can get them to try it out,
Yeah.
and they might come to one of the Shakespeare plays if they enjoy the experience.
So, 12th Night, Sense and Sensibility. What's the third show for the upcoming season?
Macker's Macbeth. It is my favorite tragedy,
Yeah.
and it is. Yeah, and it's up there. I mean, Twelfth Night and Macbeth are both in the top 10 of most lists. And some put Macbeth at number 2. Some people put 12th. That one list puts 12th at number 6. But then you go to another list and they're slightly arranged.
Arranged.
Some people put King Lear at the top or Hamlet at the top, but then Midsummer's usually right up there.
Yeah.
So it's every list is different, but
Yeah.
so that's what I look at. I try to look at all of that, and admittedly, I aim this season to be very popular,
Hmm.
well-known Shakespeare plays, and then
Absolutely.
very well-known classic author in Sense and Sensibility.
Yeah.
And Pride and Prejudice did well. I think people enjoyed it. People came. Hopefully we got a few people to try the theater in 2019 with Pride and Prejudice. They'll come back and maybe they'll see a couple shows.
This might seem kind of like a dumb question, but I'm curious, do you do the full-length Shakespeare shows, or do you do cut versions?
They're almost all cut. Almost anything you see in professional theater. There are some companies dedicated to doing every word that was written.
Yeah.
But that would lead to a 4-hour Hamlet. Every Shakespeare that I've been involved with as artistic director has been adapted to some degree. Certain references cut down for time. My goal, and this is hard for some Shakespeares, the goal is for an evening of 2.5 hours, from curtain time to when curtain call would be 2.5 hours, including intermission. So that means you can have about 2 hours and 10 or 15 minutes of content, and then a 15-minute intermission, which is sometimes 20 on a large audience night, depending on how the restrooms go. So that's the goal. This was a monumental task with King Lear that we did in 2022. We got it close to that. We were over a bit. The last summer we had very concise running times.
Awesome.
All of them were under 2.5 hours for the total evening. Book of Will is actually the longest of the three. Whereas, like Comedy Bears was just over 90 minutes, like 95 minutes of the whole evening. So, this, I think one is just for conciseness of the evening. Also, let's face it, there's some language in Shakespeare that doesn't connect to today's audience.
Absolutely.
And so there's that. Now, I know there's purists that will disagree with me. But that I think it makes for a more interesting, concise night. And so we're not afraid of that, of adapting and making judicious cuts, hopefully never to take away from the main story. And I hear very few complaints about that from our audience.
Yeah, and I mean, that's a big thing too, is you have to look at the audience who you are appealing to. Like, are they going to want to sit through 4-hour Hamlet?
Right.
Are they really? That's the ultimate question. Do you have a favorite Shakespeare play?
I think, Macbeth is up there.
Yeah.
Macbeth is probably, like I said, it's my favorite tragedy. Of the overall, I really, wow.
No pressure.
No pressure. Well, interesting enough, I really think Measure for Measure is a great play.
Yeah.
Challenging.
Yes.
Hard in many ways to perform in terms of some of the themes, but I think I really like Measure for Measure. On the pure comedy side, I think that I don't. The two that are tied there probably are As You Like It and Much Ado About Nothing.
Oh yeah.
Beatrice and Rosalind are two great characters. I think they're some of Shakespeare's best writing, and they're written for female parts.
Yeah, and we love that.
traditionally female parts, I should say.
Do you have any? Obviously, I would consider you very well versed in Shakespeare. What kind of tips do you have for anyone who might want to dip their toe into taking on an acting portion of Shakespeare, or wanting to get involved, or like what are some key Shakespeare tips and tricks, I guess?
Oh, wow. It's so interesting to be called anything of an expert in this. I was in the first production of Shakespeare I ever saw. So I was, at my freshman year of college, I was in Macbeth.
Oh, okay.
I played the pivotal role of Caithness and one of the murderers. So I was very important. But anyway, and I had not seen a Shakespeare play until that time. I grew up in rural Nebraska as a farm boy, so there wasn't around. Anyway, I think that in terms on the acting side, I would never consider myself an expert in that. But what I have observed is it's really about the language and making the language come alive and adhering to the punctuation, finding yourself a good coach or teacher that can help you with the rhythm of the speech, but also work on your instrument to be able to speak the words clearly. Very important for our stage because we're performing without microphones in the outdoors. We amplify a few things now and then, but that's by and large. So clarity of language, because the actors that can do that so well, they bring the story alive. It takes it out of that freshman English class, which is really hard to listen to, and you go, wow. After my freshman year of college, I recall I had to then read someplace. What I had to do is I went into the library, and we actually had vinyl records of the Royal Shakespeare Company performing these plays.
Oh, so that's very cool.
I had my little headset on, put on my vinyl record, and I listened to these amazing actors, John Gielgud, doing Shakespeare, and various other actors, English actors of the Royal Shakespeare Company. And all of a sudden it opened up, came alive, because the actors they knew the language, they could bring the story out. And that's what works for me, the poetry. In terms of an audience member, I guess what I've heard, and I think it's true, if you're worried about understanding it, I would just say, just listen to it and take it in and let it wash over you. You don't have to take in every word and make sense of every word that's spoken, but you'll get the gist of it. You'll get the feeling. You'll get the romance of it. You'll get that sort of a quality to it, and pick up what you can from that and enjoy that. And I think you'll enjoy it more without worrying about, I have to understand every word.
Every word of it.
Every word. Yeah.
That is very good advice.
Anyway, that comes from others. I've just picked that up from other people, and I think it's very true.
So the majority of these listeners are going to be Bloomington Normal community. So if we are not affiliated with ISU or involved with an equity or anything like that, how can Bloomington Normal community, aside from being patrons, get involved with Illinois Shakespeare Festival?
Well, we do hire every summer for various positions. It's the one stipulation about the IRTA contract with equity, and it's a hard one for community people within the community, is that we can't hire anyone as an actor who's been out of school more than 3 years. So we can hire a non-equity actors from the time they graduate for 3 years, and then we'd have to hire them under an equity contract. That's a stipulation of this particular contract. And I think that's, some people in the community don't know that. It's sort of an odd little clause. And what it's aimed at is to get people into the profession. And I understand the reason it's there. It doesn't allow us to hire local talent in a paying role. And we can have volunteers. That is possible, but I find that we're working under a professional situation. So we're rehearsing during the daytime, 8 hours a day for 6 days a week. That's a job. We have had a few volunteers. When we did Caesar, we had some volunteers. We were able to do add-on rehearsal. We've had some child actors and so forth. But it's a demanding job. And with that clause with equity, it makes it hard for us to hire community actors. Now, anyone that has other skills in production areas, administration, and any of the different crafts where the jobs get posted, they'll be starting to be posted very soon on the ISU HR site, Human Resources site. And you could always contact us through our website, to our production manager, or to me. Anything from concessions to ushering to company management to props, or there are jobs out there that are hourly jobs. And of course, we will be like all of Illinois, that our bottom pay will be $14 an hour this year. What is your
website? Where can we find out information about Illinois Shakespeare Festival?
IllinoisShakes.com.
Easy enough.
Yeah, it's all lowercase, IllinoisShakes.com. And that gets us to the website. So
and for anyone interested in maybe applying for like a concessions job, do they need to do that directly through the ISU website? Does your website direct them to the ISU site?
There should be information on our website that will direct them there, but you can also just go to the ISU hiring page.
Hiring page.
And they should be there. I don't think they're there day.
Well,
but
sure.
I don't know when this will air, but
Right.
we're talking here in early November. So throughout November, those will start being
Okay.
posted. And in November, December, by December, they'll be all posted of what we're looking for.
I am hoping to have this posted by December 15th. So
Okay.
hopefully we should have a good chunk out there
Great.
for people to take a look at. And then, of course, my favorite question that I know you prepped for.
I did.
If you could hype up Illinois Shakespeare Festival in one sentence, what would it be?
Illinois Shakespeare Festival provides quality professional live theater performed under the stars in the most beautiful setting for Shakespeare in the land.
You worked so hard for it, and I think it was brilliant.
So one thing I wrote out.
The one thing. That's okay. I mean, we don't want this to be scripted. That's no fun.
Sure.
Anything else you'd like to add, John, that I might have left out or anything?
Well, I appreciate you for doing this and bringing this out to the local theater scene. I just hope people will give live theater a chance.
Yes.
There's a lot of good live theater in town. And Heartland Theater, Community Players, Coalescence, Prairie Fire.
There's so many.
There's Holiday Spectacular has events, and so forth. So there's stuff out there, and I hope they give it a shot. Live music seems to be coming back pretty well.
Yes, I would agree with that.
But I think dance and theater and is a little harder. So I just I think we have a great facility here at Ewing Cultural Center. We are so lucky to have this. The
space
place.
Is gorgeous.
It's a gorgeous setting. The grounds and all of this is free for the community, other than buying the ticket or whatever you purchase at a concession stand. So,
any other ways the community can help Illinois Shakespeare Festival?
Well, we are always looking for donors, of course.
Sure.
And that's, of course, we're a nonprofit through the ISU Foundation. We'd love to have that support. I do think the arts are important, and so if you're able to support us on that level or add a little something to a ticket, it's always appreciated. Every $20 helps us to provide this to the community. And I think having a cultural component in the community is really important. The art galleries and music venues and all of it really does enrich our lives in so many ways.
Of course. So, all right. Well, we will post the link to the website in the description of the podcast so people can just click on it and it'll direct you. But thank you again, John. I really appreciate it. And I loved learning all of this. It was so cool to me.
Thanks, Ashley.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. To learn more about the Illinois Shakespeare Festival and their upcoming shows and events, visit their website, illinoisshakes.com, and be sure to follow along on their social media pages. If you are interested in working with the Illinois Shakespeare Festival, job applications are now available and can be found on the Illinois State University job page. Next episode will be on December 13th with the marketing chair of Community Players Theater, A.J. Ainsley, to promote their upcoming audition prep night. Thank you for listening to Raising the Curtain with Ashley Raylin, available on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and YouTube. Thanks again for listening, and as always, support live local theater.